building was built to last. And I would suggest that 25 years from now, somebody, probably not me, is going to be here celebrating another 25 years. It was an honor for Hensel Phelps to be a participant in this project, but it was Darwin Gwynn, the project manager, who really made it all happen. All I had to do was make the commitment and say, go do it. And it was up to Darwin to do it, and he's going to follow me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Bob and our next speaker, the construction project manager, organized the more than 247,000 bricks it took to build this center, the 3,800 square feet of glass, and the 925 lighting fixtures.
Now, not too many people know that these two fellas, Bob and Dar, personally unloaded 100,000 pounds of ductwork, 1,300,000 pounds of structural steel, and 4,000 cubic yards of cement, which is why they're both in such great shape today. So let's hear from that project manager, Mr. Darwin Gwynn.
Union Colony Civic Center is a winner. Rhonda tells us it's been 25 years. My name is Darwin Gwynn. I had the privilege to manage the construction of the Union Colony Civic Center for Hensel Phelps Construction Company. I have managed many projects in my working years, but the Union Colony Civic Center, the UCCC, is one of my favorites. Deb and I have spent many enjoyable hours here for the various performances, such as the spectacular plays that was shown on the screen, the great artists that have visited us, the Greeley Chorale, UNC musicals, the Greeley Philharmonic, and many more. I don't know that it said on the screen, and I may be wrong, but I think we had an election that failed, that it did not pass. And then groups were put together and we went out on town hall meetings. They were held around the city where we could advise of the design, hear their concerns, and receive the input from you citizens. A second election was held and it passed. A cost to construct estimate was made, and as Bob alluded to, it was way over the funds available. Bob Shreve, the architect, and his design team, along with the contractors, Hensel Phelps, and major subcontractors, especially Gus Notberg. Many of you have not heard of Gus, but he was very instrumental in bringing the cost down on this structure. He was the president of U.S. Engineering in Loveland. We went back to the drawing boards, reduced the cost, and now you're sitting in the structure that we built. I take pride in saying I built this building, when in fact the project was financed by Greeley citizens, guided by a select committee, designed by a Greeley architectural firm, Eric's, headed by Bob Shreve, built by skilled craftsmen of Hensel Phelps Construction Company of Greeley. Fritz Rohn, who has passed away, was the project superintendent. He and his crew of carpenters, laborers, cement finishers, ironworkers formed and placed all the concrete, laid the masonry, and the structural steel of the project. They all took pride in this building. In my opinion, the UCCC would not have been built had it not been for the generosity of many local citizens. Most of you are here, or a lot of you are here, excuse me. The Montfort family, Kenny Montfort, Hensel Phelps Construction Company, Joe Phelps, Betty and Bob Toynton, and others. The project is a result of a successful collaboration between the City of Greeley, the architect, and the contractors with their subcontractors. Being involved in the UCCC from planning, groundbreaking, building, and opening night was very satisfying for me. Greeley and Northern Colorado are enriched by the Union Colony Civic Center. Thank you.
If I may add a personal note, I remember Darwin as a much younger man, as was I, one day after church down here at the Methodist Church when this building was under construction, and he knew that I was involved in theater kinds of stuff, and he grabbed me and he said, want to go down and see the Civic Center? And we came down, there was no roof on the place, and we put on hard hats, and we're crawling up, I think, probably on the third balcony there. And I'll tell you what, that gentleman had as much pride in that, in this building, as if it had been his own children in the nursery. It was amazing, and that's one of the reasons these things have been so successful. So, I bet that you guys out there didn't know that there were 4,573,300 feet of electrical wire in the building, or that the stage fly system back here has more than 7,700 feet of rope.
And I guess you don't know that the orchestra shell weighs 18,000 pounds, or that the construction period lasted 720 days. And the total cost of this magnificent edifice, as Bob Toynton told you, was $9.25 million. But a person who did know all that is our next speaker. The mayor of Greeley in 1988, His Honor, Bob Markley.
Thank you so much. It's quite an honor to be up here. It's an honor to be your mayor from 1985 or 85 to 90. And I heard somebody back there in the backstage said, was that 1895? I got him straight before I came out. What a beautiful introduction to this celebration was that film that we had. I was going to bring my harmonica, and I'm glad I left it at home. I'm sure it would have been second place. Well, you know, we went through, if any of you can remember, I'm sure a lot of you remember, we went through, I think, 3 separate votes with the people of Greeley to get this thing underway, this beautiful auditorium. The first vote was, what do you folks in Greeley want? And the options they put down, but the first place was a senior center. And then second was the recreation hall, and way down in 4th place was the civic auditorium. Well, I'm glad we took 4th place, not 10th, but anyway, that was one of the first 3 votes. Now the next vote was, do you want to build it, finally, after all this decade of discussion? And the vote came back, yes, let's build it. And then somebody came up with the idea, what's it going to cost? Well, I remember the first problem we had was getting a bid out. And it wasn't a big problem, but Bob Shreve and Bob Toynton and all those people were working on it. And we finally came up, and Bob Toynton doesn't remember, but it came out to something like $12 million. Well, we had raised through private donations and private pledges something close to $5 million ourselves. And a little story to go along with that. The first $1 million was put in by an anonymous giver. And it was probably Greeley's worst kept secret. You folks sitting out there probably got an idea of who I'm talking about. We've talked about him a lot. And that was the kickoff of $1 million. And then we had a committee that was headed up, I think, by Bob Rule. And I think Dick Betcher. There was a lot of people on that committee that went out to the public and got donations and pledges. And you'll see their names on the hall coming into our auditorium. So that netted us around $5 million, about half the price that we finally ended up talking Bob Toynton into. We went to Bob and said, you know, we're probably going to come up against another vote here because we got to go borrow some money, and the court said, we'll take another vote. So Toynton got his pencil out and he whittled that thing down to nothing but an eraser. And we got it under $10 million. And John Kincaid and I were so thankful because we were afraid if we put that total cost up to over 10, that we'd have a hard time convincing people we should go borrow money back in New York with a bond issue. So that was pretty much the final figure. And we went back to New York and we were treated really great. And they thought really it was a great town after our finance chairman, Leonard Weiss, wowed him with his personality. You folks don't know Leonard. But we came back with that pledge in our pocket that we could bond the auditorium for the additional $5 million. Got to thank Bob Rule, and Dick Betcher, and there was a lot of people on that committee raising funds, and it was pretty tough to raise $5 million in private donations. But we did, and we were very proud that we did. We had the opening 25 years ago, the grand opening. I remember the scissors were quite dull. But we decided let's introduce some of the personalities that were so involved in this project that we had. So we started introducing with Bob Toynton. Of course, Bob was a great